Again, this is about my video, I'm a Virgo and the leftist superhero future. About the TV show I'm a Virgo, which is a show made by communist Boots Riley. It's a sort of, it's one of those deconstructive narratives about superheroes. And it definitely has a leftist leaning to it for sure. It's pretty obvious. And the video is about how that could be a signal, or that this show is kind of like a preview of what superheroes can become or can be, and a preview of what they may end up being in the future, more leftist than they are now. And what they are now is often conservative, as they've always been. But anyways, watch the video. It's linked in the chats. You can look it up. You can find my links on my page. On my About page. So that's what this comment is referring to. They're saying, the Riz 7730 says, no such thing as a leftist superhero, unless you're talking about a parody or something. Now this commenter, when I first read it, I thought perhaps they were, I kind of read at a glance, and I thought, okay, maybe they're still left wing, and they're criticizing the concept of superheroes, right? They think that the term superhero perhaps can't be reclaimed, kind of like the term police or cop. It's tainted to a degree where, can you really claim to say that cops are not bad? They're good, and it's the person. It's not, the system of policing isn't bad. It's just the rotten apples. That's not a good argument, and that's just tired centrism, right? So I thought maybe that's where they were coming from. So I was like, that could be a good point, that like, by definition superheroes are fascist, or by definition superheroes are status quo defenders, are cops in capes, And I don't necessarily agree with that, but my response was, then later I figured he's probably right wing. He was saying that, superheroes aren't lefty or liberal or whatever. Superheroes are cool, and they're, centrist or right wing or whatever, and that's good. And, like, maybe make a leftist superhero be a parody because they'll be so awful at being a superhero. That's what probably this person's coming from here. But I responded in good faith, and also a little bit cheeky. I kind of did a little bit of wink here of like, okay, maybe let's reinterpret what you said and actually, take your criticism at face value here. Perhaps the term superhero is too tainted. Perhaps it is. But if we are to reconstruct it, they can be symbols of the left fighting with the people against symbols of the right. They can be inspirational, revolutionary figures. They don't have to look like the individualistic superheroes we're used to. I'm a Virgo is an example of how one can introduce leftist ideas into a superhero narrative and include leftist superheroes, super in quotes, like Jones and Cootie, which are, main characters in the show. Basically, that's a rundown of like what I was trying to say in the video, and maybe this commenter would have, understood that if they watched the video. I'm really interested in more discussion from, more leftist-leaning people on the internet, because I'm sure they're going to have a more nuanced take on this than this person. And so I'm hoping some lefty people respond in the chat, and we can engage in the discussion there, because perhaps sometimes I think maybe the video is a little bit, I mean, it could be interpreted as a little bit naive in regards to like the limits of superheroism. Like perhaps there's a limit to what a superhero can be. We can't, like cops, we can't reclaim it, we can't redefine them, we can't reconstruct them. We have to rename them. If they are to be leftist, then they are no longer superheroes. That's an interesting viewpoint. I feel like I would like to, be fun to discuss and to analyze and to think about. And perhaps, that's a good point, maybe. I don't know. But at this point, I'm thinking, sure, okay, maybe superheroes in the minds of people are hard to redefine as leftist revolutionaries. But as we see in the show, I'm a Virgo. You could say that Cootie is on their way to becoming a leftist superhero. Now he calls himself a villain. He's like, well, I'm gonna be the villain. And that's maybe Boots Riley chiming in, trying to say that, hey, you don't have to be the villain. You can actually be a hero. But he plays into the villain role, which Jones opposes. She wants him to not be seen as the violent hero, as a violent supervillain. They're like, you don't want to be a monster. That's what they want you to be. That's what they label you as. But you don't have to be that. This is Jones' idea, and so that's one example of how he then sees her convert the bad guy of the story, which is the hero, called the hero. It's confusing, but he's called the hero, but he's actually a satire of the hero, which is, if this commentary saw my Virgo, they would see that the parody hero is actually right wing. Like that would be an effective parody, an effective send up of superheroism, and is what Virgo does, what Boots Riley does. But what he also does is he gives us these characters like Cootie, but what I point out most in the video is Jones is the actual, like, the superhero that could, be an example for future leftist superheroes, and not exclusively that. I'm not saying that all leftist superheroes should be like Jones or Cootie or whoever, but they're examples, and so Jones is like, she's I think perhaps Riley didn't want to get too militant and in his show, and his communist show. So he made sure to have Jones be a non-violent activist, which is good. That's an honorable, noble thing to do, like a non-violent activist like that. That is a great person, right? As opposed to making her a militant, activist who borders on terrorism, in the eyes of the government or the big bosses, and I think maybe that's probably a reason why the show was allowed to, was co-produced by Prime. I think it might have been co-produced by Amazon, or maybe they're just distributing it. I don't know, but they're allowing it on their platform. Had Jones been a little bit more aggressive, if Riley was more explicit in supporting that not that I'm saying that he does, but if he hadn't had a character that was violent and was supportive of that in his narrative, perhaps the Jeff Bezos and whoever runs the TV division over there, perhaps they would have been like, nah, let's not make that show. Let's not put that on here. So they're they're an example of where they can go. So you can have in the future, as I outlined in the video, I listed examples of like Wonder Woman could be a superhero who, fights against a union busting supervillain, and perhaps there's been, I don't know, has Lex Luthor been union busting in DC Comics? I've read a lot of comics. I haven't read too much Superman. But I haven't seen that, Let me know. Let me know in the chats, in the comments, in the videos, in your whatever you post on the internet, or don't, or just keep it to yourself, or tell your friend or your neighbor and talk about it. You don't have to talk about it here, anywhere, but you could if you wanted to. Yeah, tell me if if Lex Luthor has ever been union busting in the comics, or maybe Norman Osborn, any CEO villain in these stories. I wonder. They certainly haven't done it on the big movie theaters. I haven't watched every single episode of the Batman 69 series. I haven't watched every single episode of the 70s series of Wonder Woman, so I don't know if there's any leftist critique in those shows, but I do know there's definitely conservative values in a lot of those in the episodes that I have watched. I mean, recently I saw an episode of Batman from the 60s. He was going up against a Robin Hood type, and the Robin Hood was was taken from the rich, giving to the poor, the usual story, but he was framed as the bad guy, as he was doing it in the wrong way, and then you shouldn't, and basically Batman was protecting the rich, as he usually does, right? So it's definitely, there's plenty of conservative ideology throughout superheroes history, until today, even, but there's glimmers of hopes out there. I feel like Alan Moore's work, his political views do come across, and some works more than others, but generally speaking, superheroes have been a conservative genre. But we can move ahead. So that's what I was saying right here in this comment. They can be inspirational. They can. We can make inspirational superheroes, and perhaps they can just be symbols, and not actual indication of what people on the ground should aspire to. Like not that, oh, you should go be wearing a cape and you should go put on a mask. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they could be on the posters of picket signs, and it will make sense. They could be on they can inspire an activist to start their own union at work or something. I don't know, like, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be revolutionary in a way, right? And perhaps you can make superheroes that are like Che Guevara or something, right? They're actually taking down, some military capitalist or something, and some maybe made up nation in a fantasy world. Who knows? So that was the only comment right now that's on the YouTube page. There was another one that someone else posted, but they, I believe they deleted it. So let's see if I can put what I remember from it on screen here. Here we go. So I don't know if you can read this. So that there is another comment. This person was like, leftist superheroes ... Anyone obsessed with the problems of the 1% of the population or don't care about. Oh wait, let me read that. I messed it up. Anyone obsessed with the problems 1% of the population care about is not a superhero. Basically, they're saying that a leftist superhero would care only about what percent of the population cares about. Like they would only defend 1% of the population, as if like left-wing ideas and left-wing ideals like only account to 1% of the population, where a lot of these worldviews and viewpoints from the left are accepted and often the majority, you know. And so I responded, true, as the Occupy movement made clear, anyone protecting the interests of the 1% is no hero. You think superheroes would defend what the majority support, such as universal health care. I probably would write that a little differently now, but I think about it, but in the sense that I don't know if majority is always best in terms of certain topics, like when it comes to race, sex, gender discrimination. Like if you live in a community that's sexist, like the majority, is that given the right to be misogynist? No, I don't think so. But my intention with this is to just point out that he was using this 1% terminology without even, perhaps he realized this later, which is why he deleted it probably. This 1% symbol or slogan is attributed to the Occupy movement. You know, I mean, if you were alive back then, if you were aware, or if you just know about politics in general, you've heard the Occupy movement, I imagine. And so, and their slogan was all about, you know, we're the 99%, as in people who are occupying or protesting, protesting income inequality, versus the 1% of the wealthiest who own most of the world, basically, who have the most power, you know, the 1%, billionaires who own all media, who own all the companies, who basically have the majority of the wealth, not necessarily they own it, but that the 1% has, more wealth has all this wealth, while the most of us are scraping by. There's middle class, there's lower class, etc. There's different variations, but all that fails to compare to the massive wealth that the 1% have accumulated. And so, in a way, he's right that any hero that's obsessed with protecting, and defending the 1% is no hero. Can't be a superhero. They're protecting the rich. They're protecting the people who have all the power. Like, that's not heroic. That's not a noble thing to do. That's not super at all. So you'd think, that they defend other things that would protect 99% of the population, such as universal health care, such as some housing, some maybe guaranteed income through employment or elsewhere. Like, most people, a lot of people around the world have universal health care in different countries. But if we're talking about the United States, more than half of the population supports universal health care. So, and that's a leftist, left-leaning idea or want. So that's what a superhero would or should and could defend and protect. You know, imagine Superman taking out Lex Luthor in a big old mecha suit, you know, and he's like, and Lex Luthor's defending his HMO, and he's the top HMO, you know, health insurance provider in the U.S. And he takes him down, and that brings down his company. And then he goes on TV and he promotes universal health care. And then you know, something simple like that. It could be based on our everyday, on our real world politics. You can go on TV and maybe some senators and enough population make an uproar that universal health care is passed as a policy in Congress, or maybe just a metropolis. Could be there. Could just be, he could start Metropolis, where like Metropolis now has universal health care. And then, you know, you continue the story in different, you know, and then in Gotham later, and then throughout America, you know, and then that's it. And then in this superhero world now, people have universal health care. And so when people go to the comic book shop, watch a movie, they see that in that world, that's not an issue. They're fighting other things, you know. And they go back home and think, wait a minute, if in Gotham and Metropolis, you know, people have universal health care, why can't we have it? You know, so, you know, that'd be a lovely reality, right? A nice leftist future that is foreseeable in the future. You can envision it. It's not like full blown communism. You know, that's like, could be generations away, if at all, right? Although I think it is inevitable. But you know, communism, I think. But I will not, you know, it could be anarcho-communism. Anarchistic communism. But no, we'll talk about that another day. But yeah, so those were the comments that caught my attention. Indeed.